It seems like every other day, there's some huge new development in AI grabbing the headlines.
Oh yeah, definitely keeps us on our toes.
But every once in a while, something comes along that really does feel different. And that's what we're going to dive into today.
Something that really kind of shakes things up a little bit.
Yeah, this new AI agent out of China. It's making waves globally. So I'm really looking forward to unpacking this with you.
Right, and I think what's capturing everyone's attention is not just that it's another AI, we've got chatbots coming out left and right these days. It's more about what this one claims to be able to do.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and that's the MANUS AI agent, right?
MANUS AI agent, yep, launched by a company called Butterfly Effect. They've got some serious backing from Tencent Holdings, which, big player in the tech space.
Oh yeah, huge.
So right from the start, the ambition behind MANUS is what's got everyone talking. It's designed to not just, answer your questions or write you a poem. It's going for independent completion of complex tasks.
Okay, so we've got to break that down because independent completion of complex tasks, that's a pretty big statement.
It is.
So what sets MANUS apart from the AI systems that we're already seeing out there?
I think the core difference, and this is what they're really hammering home, is this idea of handling multi-stage projects, right? So not just a single task, but a whole sequence of things with minimal need for human guidance.
Okay.
So it's striving to move beyond, just generating text or images. We've seen a lot of that. And actually execute on intricate goals.
Actually get stuff done.
Yeah, make things happen in the real world. And a big part of how they're approaching that is this thing called a multi-model architecture, which we hear a lot about these days, but it's always interesting to see how it's applied.
Yeah, can you give us a more concrete picture of what that actually means in the case of MANUS?
So instead of relying on one single type of artificial intelligence, like, just a language model or just an image generation model, MANUS combines the strengths of various specialized AI models. And there's actually a quote from one of the co-founders of Butterfly Effect, Peak G. Yikao. He mentioned on X, which used to be called Twitter, that they actually utilize existing large language models, these LLMs everyone's talking about, including Anthropic's Claude and customized versions of Alibaba's Quinn.
Oh, interesting.
So they're taking these different models that already exist, and they're not trying to reinvent the wheel. They're saying, okay, how do we use these in the most intelligent way possible?
So it's not a one-size-fits-all AI. It's kind of like picking and choosing the right tool for each stage of a complex task.
Exactly. It's like having a toolbox, right? And you've got your hammer, your screwdriver, and depending on what you need to do, you pick the right tool. And by leveraging these different LLM architectures, MANUS can tap into very specific reasoning and execution capabilities.
Okay, so we've talked about the ambition behind MANUS and the kind of the architecture that's enabling it, but let's get down to brass tacks. What can it actually do in the real world?
Right, beyond the theory.
Yeah, what are we talking about here?
And there were some really interesting concrete examples that CNN Business reported on. So apparently, MANUS can handle things like you give it a huge stack of resumes. It can go through them based on certain criteria and screen them.
Yeah.
It can even construct entire websites.
Okay.
And I think the emphasis here is it's not just about generating ideas. It's not about, coming up with a concept. It's about producing tangible results.
Deliverables.
Yeah, deliverables. So one example they gave was generating a property recommendation report based on a user's specific criteria.
So it can go out and find you a house, essentially?
Well, based on what you tell, it can analyze a lot of data and come back with, here are some options.
That's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, so the emphasis is on real-world applicability, not just, theoretical potential.
Okay, so they all sounds great on paper, But how does MANUS actually hold up when it's put to the test, right?
Yeah.
In real-world scenarios, has anyone actually had the opportunity to use it extensively and see how it performs?
They have MIT Technology Review got their hands on it, and they did a really interesting hands-on assessment, and they put MANUS through its paces across 3 different types of tasks. They had it create journalist contact lists based on, specific criteria, so like finding journalists who cover a particular industry.
Okay.
They had it do real estate searches, very nuanced parameters, and they even had it try to identify potential candidates for their Innovators Under 35 program.
Oh, wow. That's a pretty rigorous test.
It is, and the reviewer, Kaiwei Chen, she had a really interesting analogy. She said, using MANUS was like collaborating with a highly intelligent and efficient intern. Which is kind of funny because it's like, yeah, it's really smart and get things done, but it's still learning.
It might make a few mistakes along the way.
Exactly, and she pointed out that sometimes it misinterprets a request, makes assumptions that aren't entirely accurate, or maybe tries to, cut corners in a way that you weren't expecting.
Well,
But there's a big plus. It explains its reasoning.
oh, that's huge.
So you're not just left wondering, like, why did it do that, or how did it come up with that result?
It gives you insights into its process.
So you can kind of understand its logic, even if it doesn't always get it right.
Exactly. And what's really encouraging is that the review also indicated that MANUS is very adaptable. So when you give it more detailed instructions or when you provide corrective feedback, it actually improves significantly.
It learns from its mistakes.
Yeah. It's not a static system. It evolves and refines its approach.
Now, earlier you mentioned this unique feature called MANUS's computer, and that sounds intriguing. So what exactly is that?
So this is a really cool part of MANUS. It's like you can peek under the hood a little bit.
Oh, okay.
The MANUS's computer interface gives you a window into the AI's decision-making process, something that we don't always see with AI systems. It's almost like you're watching it work.
So you're not just giving it a command and then crossing your fingers hoping for the best outcome. You can actually see the steps that it's taking.
Exactly. You can see how it's interacting with different application information sources, pulling data from different places.
So it's a much more transparent process. Yeah, and that transparency allows for a degree of user oversight. So if something's going off track, you might be able to intervene.
Right.
And it really fosters this collaborative relationship between humans and AI, where we can leverage the AI's capabilities for complex tasks, but we're not completely out of the loop.
Yeah, we maintain some control and some understanding of what's happening.
Right. It's not just a black box.
Now that sounds really promising in terms of building trust and ensuring accuracy. But you also alluded to some of the challenges that MANUS is facing in its implementation. So can you talk about some of those hurdles?
Yeah, so no system is perfect, right? And MIT Technology Review did highlight some technical issues that they encountered during their evaluation. They said they experienced quite frequent system crashes and timeout errors, especially when they were really pushing the system with longer or more resource-intensive tasks.
Okay.
And the error messages often pointed to a high service load, which suggests that, their computational infrastructure might be struggling a bit to keep up with the demands.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense that orchestrating these complex multi-step tasks would require a lot of processing power, a lot of resources.
Exactly. And these technical constraints are likely contributing to the very limited access that's currently available for MANUS.
Right.
It's been reported that less than 1% of the people on the wait list have actually gotten invitation codes to use it.
Oh, wow. So there's a huge backlog of people who are eager to try it out.
Yeah, there is. And their Discord channel has over 186,000 members. So there's a lot of interest, but the infrastructure might not be quite there yet for wide-scale use.
Yes, it sounds like they're still working out some of the kinks.
They are. And on the economic side, the Chinese tech publication, 36KR, reported an estimated operational cost of about $2 per task completed by MANUS.
Okay, so $2 a task.
And that was described as relatively competitive, suggesting that, while they're still working on the infrastructure, the cost per task seems to be within a reasonable range.
Okay, so it's not exorbitantly expensive to use.
Not yet, at least.
Okay, now, there's also been some big news about a strategic partnership that Butterfly Effect has struck up, particularly with Alibaba. So what can you tell us about that collaboration?
Yeah, this is huge because it gives us a sense of where MANUS might be headed.
Right.
So the South China Morning Post reported on March 11th that Butterfly Effect, the makers of MANUS, have teamed up with Alibaba Cloud.
Okay.
And the main goal of this partnership is to make MANUS more accessible, especially within China.
So not just expanding geographically, but also making sure that it's compatible with the existing tech infrastructure within China.
Exactly. And they're going to be working closely with Alibaba's Quinn team, which is Alibaba's, big language model division.
Right.
And they're aiming to make MANUS available on domestic AI models and computing platforms. So it's really aligning MANUS with the advancements that are happening within China's own AI landscape.
Okay.
However, we don't have specific timelines yet for when this integration will be fully rolled out.
So they're still working on the details, but the partnership is in place.
The partnership is in place.
Okay, and it's interesting because this partnership comes at a time when Alibaba itself has been making some pretty big strides in the world of AI foundation models.
Oh, absolutely, big time. And just a few days before they announced this partnership with Butterfly Effect, Alibaba unveiled their latest large language model, which is called QWQ32B.
Okay, QWQ32B, got it. And what's special about this model? What are they emphasizing?
So CNN Business reported that Alibaba has been really touting QWQ32B's reasoning performance, They claim it surpasses OpenAI's smaller model O1 Mini, and it rivals the performance of DeepSeek's R1, which is this big open source reasoning model.
Okay.
And what's really remarkable is that QWQ32B achieves this with only 32 billion parameters.
Okay, so that's a pretty significant number because DeepSeek's R1, how many parameters does that have?
R1 has a whopping 671 billion parameters.
So it's like 20 times bigger.
Yeah, so Alibaba's really emphasizing the efficiency gains that come with having this smaller model size.
Right, so you can achieve comparable reasoning power, but with much less computational overhead.
Exactly, which could make it more accessible and cheaper to operate.
Okay, so the MANUS partnership with Alibaba isn't just some random event. It's really tied into this bigger picture of what's happening within China's AI capabilities.
Yeah, it's all connected. And these developments with MANUS and Alibaba's own advancements in large language models, they reflect a bigger strategic emphasis on AI within China. The government has clearly identified AI along with things like quantum computing and robotics as strategically important industries.
The industries of the future.
Right, and they're putting their money where their mouth is.
Yeah. Tell me about it. So are we seeing concrete examples of this governmental support translating into actual investments?
Huge investments. Alibaba announced that they're going to invest 380 billion yuan, which is over $52 billion,
Wow.
in AI and cloud computing infrastructure over the next 3 years.
That's massive.
It's huge. And to put that in perspective, they said that this planned investment is bigger than all of their investments in these sectors combined over the past decade.
So they're really ramping things up.
Oh yeah, they're going all in on AI.
And that suggests that China's ambitions in this field are very serious.
Yeah.
They're not just trying to catch up, they're trying to be a leader.
Exactly. And Kai-Wei Chen from MIT Technology Review, she made a great point. She said, Chinese AI companies are not just following in the footsteps of their Western counterparts.
They're blazing their own trail.
They're shaping how AI is being developed and adopted, and MANUS is a perfect example of that.
So it's not just imitation, it's genuine innovation. And it seems like there's a distinct philosophy guiding AI development in China.
Right, they have a different approach, they have different priorities, and it's being driven by government policies, it's being driven by funding, and they have a ton of talent.
Yeah.
And so we're seeing this really vibrant AI ecosystem emerge in China, and it's not just a copy of what's happening in the West.
So for our listener today, let's kind of bring it all together. What are the key takeaways from this deep dive into MANUS?
Well, we've seen how MANUS is really ambitious. It wants to create an AI that can handle complex tasks from start to finish without much human intervention.
True autonomy.
Yeah, and its multi-model architecture is key to that. It's leveraging these existing powerful language models and combining them in clever ways.
And MANUS's computer.
Yeah.
You know, I think that was really interesting, this idea that you can actually see what the AI is doing. It's not just a black box.
Exactly. Transparency is huge.
And we talked about some of the challenges they're facing, you know, the system crashes, the limited access, and the fact that they're still kind of working out the kinks.
Yeah, still early stages, but a lot of potential.
And the partnership with Alibaba Cloud is really significant because it signals how MANUS might be deployed in the future within China.
Yeah, and Alibaba's own advancements in AI, their new QWQ32B model, shows that they're serious about this technology.
And we have to remember, all of this is happening within the context of China's much broader strategic focus on becoming a global leader in AI.
Right, huge investments, government support, a lot of energy and enthusiasm going into this field.
So it's not just about mirroring existing AI models, it's about creating something new, something different.
A new.
Yeah, and it really makes you think about the broader implications of this technology as it continues to evolve, right? What happens when we have AI agents like MANUS that can operate with increasing autonomy?
Right, what does that mean for the future of work?
And with different parts of the world potentially developing their own AI ecosystems? You know, that could lead to some really interesting and potentially unexpected outcomes.
A multipolar AI world.
Yeah, so definitely something to keep an eye on.
Absolutely fascinating stuff.
It really is.
Exciting times.
So much to think about. And that's it for our deep dive today. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll see you next time for another fascinating look at the world of AI.
Until then.
Bye for now.